So in this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy a VM or an instance into Amazon. But we're going to go a little further. We're actually going to assign it to different security groups based on parameters we pass to it when we actually go to provision the VM inside of the service catalogs. So to do that, let's jump into services. And then inside of services, we will go to our catalogs. And inside of catalogs, we've got our service catalogs. And right here, you see we have a deploy AWS EC2 instance. And so all we need to do to get to the provisioning dialog is to click order. And here we see just some basic form. Now this could be a lot more elaborate. We could have a lot more information we would pass to the instance. But in this case, we're just asking for an instance name. In this case, I'm going to call it JB dev SRV01. And we're going to put that into development. But in this case, I've got multiple environments that I've set up here. So let's put it in development. Let's go ahead and submit this job. And what I'm going to do is actually submit a couple of these jobs. We'll see what happens as CloudForms calls some scripts to provision those instances based on the information we've given. And again, I'm using Ansible in this example, but you could use Chef, you could use Puppet, or really kind of any engine you want to provision those. So pretty soon we'll see our job is active. It's in the middle of provisioning out to AWS. And after a few minutes or so, once it's gone through its steps, we'll actually see that VM show up in our inside of our provider. So while this is provisioning, I'm actually going to go back over to my catalogs, and I'm going to re-provision a few more servers. We'll put one in test, and we'll put one in production. So we'll put this one in test. And hit submit. We see that order's been submitted, and then we go back over it and order another one. And at the risk of boring you, I'm cutting out a few steps where pages are loading here. So we'll just call this prod serve 01. Anyway, just gives you the idea that I've fired off 3 jobs, and these will now provision up in AWS, and we should see these instances put into 3 individual security groups. And we'll be able to see our instances by going to Compute, Clouds, and then Instances. Now I've filtered these down to see the 3 servers that have been built. You can see that there's my dev server, my test server, my production server. They all have IP addresses, and they've all been created in the availability zone US East 1B. So if I go into each of these, I should start seeing the different security groups, right? So that's one of the things that we narrowed it down based on the tag that we sent it, or the setting that we sent. So we can see in here we've got one security group. So this is our dev server, and we see that it's part of the dev group. So if I go back one and I go look at our test server, go down here to its security group, click on that. We see it's part of the test group. And just go confirm that production is exactly as we'd imagine. It's part of the security group prod. So you can see really quickly that just by tagging it or using the service dialog and using drop downs to tag the servers, you can assign all sorts of all sorts of detail that you want to these servers. This is one example, just tagging different security groups, but you could essentially attach these VMs to all sorts of things inside of AWS. So again, hopefully this was helpful to kind of give you an idea of kind of what you can do with inside of CloudForms with, again, the provisioning dialogues and a bit of configuration scripting on the back. We can see what that looks like. So let's go look at that service dialog by going to Automate and Customization. So this is what the provisioning dialog looks like. It's this AWS EC2 instance dialog. And we see it's looking for that instance name and then the workload variable here. If we edit this, we can see it's just looking for a label. We've got some basic information. That's the variables that we're going to be sending to our script. So we need things like the instance name, the workload, the AMI ID, the provider ID, and all that stuff is provided inside of CloudForms because it's got that information. We just need to then tell it what workload we want to, the variable that we want to put in here, and this is defined over here. We'll see a drop-down list, and we see the different variables and the values and their descriptions. And so those get passed to the script. The script then does a pretty typical just provision. So out of the box, Ansible can do that pretty simply. It's got a module to deploy instances into AWS. We just tell it, hey, when you're going to development, use this security group. When you're going to test, use this one. So again, pretty simple to do. Once you set it up, then you can expand upon this and do all sorts of much more elaborate automation. Again, we're just doing security groups, but you could do so much more. So anyway, I hope this was helpful.